doctor and industrial hygienist with more than 31 years of professional experience in occupational health and industrial hygiene across government and corporate sector, particularly within a small and medium industry. He is recognized as a subject matter expert SME in occupational health, industrial hygiene principles, regulatory policies, and compliance requirements. He holds an MBBS degree, a postgraduate diploma in occupational health from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM, and a master degree in safety, health, and environment. Dr. Lim is a Dodge registered occupational health doctor, a certified professional industrial hygiene CPIH with multiple professional certification in ergonomics, occupational health and safety management system, environmental auditing, and training methodology. Dr. Lim has held a senior leadership role within the Sabah State Health Department, including District Health Officer in Charge, Principal Assistant Director, and Medical Officer and Acting Deputy Director. He has also served as a senior fellow in University Malaysia Sabah, contributing to academic development in medical and health sciences. Through his career, Dr. Lim has been actively involved in policy development, enforcement, research, capability and capacity building, with over 40 publications, participation in 14 national projects, and delivery of approximately 85 conference and seminar presentation related to occupational health and safety. He is a fellow and member of numerous national and international professional bodies, reflecting his strong standing in occupational health and industrial hygiene community. So now let's join me to welcome Dr. Lin Jack Feng to proceed with our last session for today. Doctor?
Thank you, Dara. Selamat petang, selamat sejahtera. Very good afternoon. In Kopi Ocean from Kota Kinabalu, Sabah. I think your Zara's introduction was like a lecture already. So I shall start. So I hope, as usual, everybody will say that the afternoon session is the most challenging. So I hope to share with you what is control measures all about. Zara, I think my sharing is not turned on, even though I'm in panelist.
Oh, okay. Monia. Participant, you can hear Dr. Lim clearly, right? Aisha, can you assist?
I can try again to share screen.
Okay. All right, so I'll jump straight into the topic. And my topic for the day, after the requirement for what they call that, the law and regulations, as well as a case from Dr. Ruben. So we'll go to the last part, that is after you know about the problems in the workplace, you need to control. So my interest area is in industrial hygiene at the moment. And just to let you know, industrial hygienist is needed, and I will encourage as many as of our participants or those who are in safety to try and become industrial hygienists. All right. So having said that, the reason being very simple. There are only two main functions of an industrial hygienist. One is all of us who are practitioners in OSH, whatever the role is, medical or otherwise, our aim is to prevent workplace exposures. So for industrial hygiene, one of the two main jobs, one of the basic requirements is actually monitoring and sampling and identifying of hazards in the workplace. That means we pick it up well before it happens. All right. The second main function of an industrial hygienist would be control measures. So control is sometimes seen like very chinchai, simple, you know. But actually, if I give one example, for example, you are exposed to certain chemicals, and they say that, oh, you need adequate ventilation. So what is adequate ventilation to you? How do you ensure that your ventilation is adequate? And what kind of ventilation would you recommend in the work site? And whether it is effective or not. So that is the whole point of industrial hygiene. Okay, so coming to the topic, our objectives will be, of course, a bit of introduction before why chemical controls matters legally and practically in Malaysia. And then, of course, go through quickly. I'm sure most of you know what is hierarchy of control. But here I would like to say, although traditionally we are told that, and academically even, we are told that we should follow a hierarchy of control. But I think this hierarchy of control is more like a guide. So what does it mean? What does it mean actually? So you start with your eliminate and substitute and so on and so forth. But for example, what can be least protective can be most protective depending on the need. For example, in COVID, what is you think will be the first line of defense for you as a general public worker and as a worker? So certainly most of us will be focusing on infection control procedures, like for example, what they call that, using a respirator or face mask and so on and so forth. So how many of us will look at, say, ventilation, eliminate the COVID, for example, or substitute COVID with something else? So sometimes it's not reasonable. So depends on where and how you look at it. The least effective can be the most effective depending on the situation. Okay, but don't get what they call derailed by this explanation. Actually, we still come back to the hierarchical control because it is a method used by all safety professionals. The third one is a very challenging one, that is the use of PP equipment. So as I just explained to you, PPE is widely used in all situations. So although PP being the least effective by definition, by understanding, but sometimes PPE may be the only solution in the worksite, in addition to other control measures, which may be very expensive, technologically out of reach, and sometimes people mm, may not be knowing the details, the technical details of managing that particular hazard in the workplace. And last, of course, I'll be looking at one main case and its control, and the other one will be for the participants to uh, suggest after this lecture. So as you all know, all workplace hazards can be controlled by a variety of methods. And the goal of controlling hazards is to prevent workers from being exposed to occupational hazards. So what we are more concerned in most of the classification of hazards, like ergonomic, psychosocial, and so on and so forth, including chemicals, are basically health hazards. So we have been time and time again saying that it is sort of easier to recognize safety hazards, but it is hugely and difficult to manage health hazards. Because why? As we all know, those who are in the safety, health hazard takes time to show itself, unless it's an acute event. Other than that, most hazards, even your PL, is tuned towards preventing chronic exposure. It's not meant for acute exposure. If you go back to your what they call standards in occupational hygiene or health, you know you have your TLVs, your TWAs, STL, and CL. So you need to understand when to use the appropriate controls. So these are not just the PL, STL, C, just for knowledge purpose, but it's also actually telling you what you need to do, all right, and how to use control measures appropriately. So some methods of hazard control are more efficient than others, but a combination of methods usually provide a safer workplace than relying on only one method. But the reality in worksite is you need to implement immediately that one method you think is most suitable. And then only you can sort of like apply other methods as and when necessary, like according to OSHA Act, when it is practicable. All right. So you have to look at cost, you look at the whether you have the knowledge on it, the technical expertise, and so on and so forth. So as safety practitioners, when you are making recommendations, you have to take a step back sometimes. Think carefully because you can recommend, but the impact or the or the consequence is paid by your workers and maybe yourself, all right, in the work site. So why chemical control matters legally and practically in Malaysia? So you can look at the health requirements, all right? You can look at the legal compliance requirements. You can look at productivity. And of course, in the latest, that is a buzz and a blaze in our work site, is our ESG alignment. Okay, so everybody is talking about ESG, and then as safety practitioners, again, you have to align whatever you are complying with is also complying with other newer regulations and recommendations by government, not only in Malaysia, but if you're an exporter, you also need to comply with whatever they impose on you outside. Then you want to apply control measures. You need to know exposure routes or routes. So what are the common exposure routes? So you see here you have inhalational, okay? That means you breathe in. In gas, usually you swallow. So that's why in Malay they say termakan kan, bukan makan, bukan dimakan, bukan disuruh makan. So if you termakan, so safety people will say accidental kan. But if you makan, that means you want to go somewhere very quickly, isn't it? So, so where does this ingestion usually take place? Knowingly or unknowingly? What do you think? So ingestion is usually for me, I look at it broadly as a housekeeping issue. Housekeeping and sometimes safety culture issues, safety, what do you call, facilities issue, welfare issue. So that's where ingestion usually takes place. And inhalation, all depends on the understanding on particle size. Okay, sometimes what you see is less dangerous than what you don't see actually. So that is generally speaking. And then of course injection, which is very uncommon among our workers in industry, usually common in animal husbandry or even our health and hospital care, where you can get an injection. That means you are exposed to accidental injection, not what you call, like, in again in Malay, disuntik. When you disuntik, there's a thing which is different from terjarum. Bukan di jarum. Okay, and then of course the fourth one is skin absorption. This one is very important to understand. That's why you need to refer to your CSDS. You need to do your hygiene measure, that is anticipate, recognize, assess, and control. So if you do this 4 pillars of industrial hygiene, or even safety procedure, you can call it, you will be able to manage most work site or prevent most work site hazards, or as part of a risk reduction method. So just as another talking point, you can put it in the chat box. What are the 2 ways that is not stated here that workers can be exposed? Okay, can you do that? Just put into the chat box. Later we have a look at it, and you can see whether you can refresh. So there's actually 4 main methods that we know, and two, or even sometimes they say 3 additional methods, where you have to be aware that for certain group of people, for certain exposures, is dangerous to that particular target group. All right. Now, after you understand all this, you have to do your control. So you don't jump straight into your control. You need to look at what is a standard. Where is the source? Where is the source or the root cause of all your problems? How it can travel through the media or the air part or media, and then reach your workers or yourself. So once you understand the source, the pathway, not necessarily air, pathway, and how it can reach the worker in what manner. For each of these, at the source, at the pathway, and at the worker, you need to implement the control measures. So by implementing at all points, at all these points, you would be able to do a very good risk reduction. That means preventing workers from being exposed to as low as possible. So, but that is their main aim, kan? ALAP. ALAP is your main aim, as low as reasonably practicable. That should always be aim. Your aim in reality, yeah. Although they say eliminate, eliminate, but I think we all know it is in most situations is almost difficult to eliminate. So again, another thing you can put up based on your knowledge is what has been eliminated, which chemical has been eliminated in Malaysia for use and now being aggressively pursued to reduce totally this particular chemical. Okay, you can put it in your chat box. Okay. So now you want to institute control. All right. So you are very familiar with this, the hierarchy of controls. You have eliminate, that is physically remove the hazard. Okay, but let me put it this way. So when you want to do hierarchy of controls in any form, you can actually try to control the process, the chemical, the people, and equipment. So generally speaking, you can do that actually. So you can eliminate the person. So not well trained, or have some issues or health issues, you eliminate the worker, sort of. Okay, so just like the chemicals, the process, and the equipment. So you can do that for elimination, substitute, engineering, administrative, and PPE. So that is the way we have been traditionally taught of, which is correct. The method that as any safety practitioner should use as a guide. So what is the meaning of elimination, substitution, engineering control, administrative, and PPE? You can actually see from this slide, all right? So again, you have this traditional thought, that is what is the most effective, which is the least effective, which is the most practicable. So again, another thing you can put in the chat box, which are the most practicable controls generally adopted in most workplaces. Say even you are working in a small medium industry, multinational, or whatever, which is the two most common method that is generally applicable. Okay, two most common. Of course, I'm telling you the third one would be, of course, PPE, because as tradition says it, PPE is the least protective. And what is the PPE? Anything you use to prevent exposure to that particular hazard. All right. So elimination, you can see here, means removing the hazard completely. I told you can't remove hazardous chemical entirely from the process. Even the equipment that is malfunctioning, or even the worker that is not properly trained, or having some health issues or whatever. And of course, the chemical itself. So the chemical, the process, the people, the equipment. So you can actually do that. So this is one example. And substituting, replacing the chemical with less hazardous one, usually it doesn't work, because why? Most existing factories or manufacturing, they already depend on their product is well accepted because they use certain method, certain equipment, certain products or chemicals to manufacture. So people want that. So when they pay money for that, they expect that kind of product. So to try and substitute something, it may or may not work. So it depends on the industry itself, how far they can go to substitute. All right. So one example given here is swap to water-based paints instead of high VOC solvent paint. So that's a very general statement, but does it apply to certain areas where you need a certain type of paints, for example? All right. Okay. And then you have engineering controls. So engineering control, is isolate people from exposure to equipment or design. So it's not becoming an engineer. You don't have to know much of engineering, but the engineering technical knowledge is actually very important. So that's perhaps one of the reasons why it's called engineering control. Even though the broad definition is isolate people, but it involves a lot of technical. So you can see here local exhaust ventilation, enclosed system, automated handling, interlock, negative pressure rooms, and so on and so forth. All these are technical. How do you know they work? So one example of a local exhaust ventilation, you can see from here, is uh, we teach this module in under the industrial hygiene module, control of hazardous substance. So this is a miniature model, through working miniature model of a local exhaust ventilation. And you know, local ventilation can be used. There are two types of ventilation: general, which already consists of one example of general ventilation will be dilutional ventilation, and the other one will be local exhaust ventilation. So where they can use and all that uh, depends. So, but local exhaust ventilation mainly you use when you have CHTH, that means control of hazardous chemical, control of hazardous chemical which are hazardous to health. All right. So this is another true example. But then again, looking at this slide, you look at this slide, and you can see the whole structure, kan? So basically, LEVs got a whole whole ducting system, a fan, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's not difficult to just fix something there, but how do you know that it really works? So that's the domain of industrial hygiene. You need to do so for the testing part. You have the technician that can come in. That is the if you have a industrial hygiene Tech 2 qualification, so you can do the testing. All right, the testing whether this system is correct. But what is suspicious is this ducting goes straight into the roof, so you don't know where it's going actually. So is it exhausting there or is it connected where? So sometimes yeah, these things are not clear. But why this thing is being placed is because workers feel there's a need to protect themselves, but they do not consult the right people when they do this installation. So when you install anything, any equipment, uh, testing and commissioning is very, very important right from the start. Then after that, the laws, of course, like you already heard in use regulation, you need to do testing once a year, if I'm not mistaken, on the proper functioning of this equipment. And then, of course, the person who installed this must be well trained. Otherwise, is the suction adequate? The suction is adequate. The fan is correct. The ducting is proper, and so on and so forth. You don't just fix something. It's not like a fan you just buy. As long as it blow enough wind, you're happy with it. All right. So isolation and closure, these are some examples. And then again, word of caution when you are using, especially in chemical labs or some form of work dealing with hazardous chemicals. So you have different types of fume hoods. You have the conventional fume hood with vertical stash, which you can see most in most laboratory. And then you have the conventional hood with horizontal sash, bypass hood, auxiliary hood, walk-in hood, self-contained hood, and so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to tell you here is for those who are using this protective equipment, all right, because you don't want it to escape. So what's the main function of this hood is actually protect the worker and protect the environment. So it doesn't allow this hazardous chemical to come out of this area, okay, and pollute everywhere and the environment as well as the worker. So why I put this up is you should be aware that not everything they look alike, but they don't function the same, and they have different requirements. Okay, just as a cautionary uh, information. So this one here. So the problem is not companies or hospitals or lab can't afford to purchase or fit, but the problem is the understanding of the placement, the use, and the proper management of this uh, piece of equipment that is actually designed to protect you. So imagine you see what's the problem here. Yes, it's provided to protect you, but then where do you locate it? Is it correct? So most of the time, based on my experience, is most of the lab workers, they know what is it, but they can't verify that this particular equipment is what is safe is it. Because it's always like uh, uh, bos yang beli, bos mesti betul, you know. So is that correct? So you as the end user who is supposed to be using this piece of equipment should actually be aware of the details of that equipment. Because why? Why you buy it? Why do you use it? Because you want to make sure you and your fellow workers are not exposed. All right. Then, of course, the next control measure is administrative control. Okay, administrative control. So here you can see shift work, housekeeping, job rotation, break time, safety procedure. Training is extremely important. And of course, for basic hazardous communication, labeling, and CSDS, as well as maintenance chemical register is extremely important. Although we don't seem to see that they are important, but they are important because what's the first sign of yeah, working with something you consider as hazardous to your health, especially chemical? So the first thing you will note is the label. So from the label itself, there is information telling you how hazardous is chemical. So one from there itself, you will know that what are the requirements, control measures that you need to put in place before you work with such chemicals. And the CSDS, of course, tells you the details. The chemical register is to help you to monitor your usage and your disposal and so on and so forth. All right. So all these little things can we don't seem to take it important until something happens. When something happen, Jom Hebola, everybody be shouting, jumping up and down, pointing fingers. But when you go back to the basis, are you actually implementing these simple things? So that is a challenge. So in safety, the biggest challenge in my personal uh, thinking is the routineness of doing things, which makes it very challenging. Macam they say boring, you know. So every time you need to check, you know, is it my job? So these are the kind of challenges. So, but when things explode and things happen, then everybody will be looking to shift to blame. But actually, you know, in safety, you're not supposed to be blaming first. You're supposed to look at how to make the system better. All right. So look at back at yourself. How many of you are doing workplace inspections regularly, auditing for safety, and so on and so forth? So don't apa pandang remeh this kind of thing. They are very actually important. So again, if you inspect, you ask them from outside, semua bagus kah? Bagus. You open their store and this is what you get. Of course, this is about 20 odd years ago in our labs, especially our chemical labs. So you can see how somewhat okay kind of thing. You have even sign with tengkorak, not closed properly, you know, labels and so on and so forth. So is your lab like this? Are you even looking at it? Look at the store, look at the chemicals. Are they compatible? Are they supposed to be stored like that? Or what is the issue here? So nobody wants to work until die, like harakiri themselves. Nobody. It's just that they don't know. If they know and they keep doing that, it means that your supervisory, what do you call, procedures are very poor. That's why in OSHA, sometimes we don't get the nuance of inform, instruct, train, and supervise. You know, in OSHA, it always says inform, instruct, train, supervise. So if you really do the inform, instruct, train, and supervise, that itself already will drastically reduce your risk of exposure of your workers and make your workplace safer actually. Then again, you look at the places that no one wants to look, nobody goes because it's not my problem, something like that. And then you see, can you do this? So you can see this is how many years ago. But I hope it's not happening now, okay? So what is the original bottle? This. What has been replaced? This. And why is it done that way? Of course, there are many, many reasons. So, but before you jump straight in and mara and lenting and put the blame, you need to understand why it happened and what can you do to actually reduce that problem. Okay, this one looks nice, administrative. So this is both administrative as well as using chemical cupboard. So what is odd here? Can you identify? Yes, you have a fume cupboard, you have a firefighting equipment, and you have a eye wash and shower station. So what is there to complain, isn't it? So do you agree with this? What do you think is wrong? So like I said, when you don't have the technical competence or expertise, all right, you just want to comply. So you taruh lah whatever corner, whichever side, whatever space that is left, you just put on it. But whether it's actually going to cause a problem later, going to cause other issues later on, that is left to be seen. So touch wood, cross your fingers, oh, nothing is going to happen. So sometimes the answer when you ask them, why you do that? Oh, we just comply. Saya kerja 20 tahun, tiada apa-apa. Kita comply saja. So that is the thing lah. So is it in your work site and workplace also in terms of this control, right? Then we go to our PPE. So our PPE is most maligned in safety. Always we repeat the mantra: last choice, last choice, last choice. Okay, because it does nothing to reduce the hazard. But like I said in the early part, is it truly the last choice? Or sometimes it's the second one, used only when other controls inapplicable. All right, or used widely for maintenance field. And then why I put there in any PPE, what I have observed over the many, many years is the lack of proper training. You know, the only training they do is, this is a PP ya. Nah, pakai. Kamu tidak pakai, kamu mati, kamu punya tahu. You know, that kind of thing. So is that the kind of safety training advice you want to give to your workers? So what does it mean when you say training is critical? So training generally will be what is the thing you're using, what PP you're using, type, correct, fit, how to put on. You know, if you're putting on some PPE is donning, duffing, how do you put on? Is the putting on the same as cooking off? So, you know, all these things, how do you store? Is it reusable? In what situation it is recyclable? How do you clean it? You know, this kind of thing I find is macam sakit lah in our system. So basically because semua sibuk, so they just want to comply again. So I think sometimes take a step back and be serious about what you want to do in this particular field. So PPE, many, many types, as you know. And what is PPE? Generally, anything you use to protect or form a barrier between the worker and the hazard. So anything, okay? So you can see the, what do you call that? The uh, formal definition intended to be worn, held by a person, and so on. So again, for Malaysia, as a reminder, PPE must conform to CEM and NIOSH approval. But what if the PPE is not CEM, no NIOSH approved, but is approved in Europe Safety or HSC UK or even NIOSH or in other countries? So can you use them? So again, I leave it to you. Okay. So sometimes what if the PP is not tested here yet, but it's already approved in another country? You know, sometimes you face this thing. So if you are smart enough, you know the answer to this question. So what is the regulation? Under use regulation 2000, you have a very specific mention of PPE. Okay. So you can see here again the same definition, apa-apa kelengkapan and all that stuff. And then membekal maklumat dan penggunaan tentang PPE. Seems like everybody forgot this part. So they are very busy with the first part. Supply, bagi saja. Dia mau guna, dia tidak mau guna, dia punya tahu. But then the implication is not only to the worker. Anything happen, you kena, the management kena, and can cause problem in the work site lah. So this second one, membekal maklumat and penggunaan tentang PPE is extremely important. How do you know that? So make sure you get from reputed suppliers, and reputed suppliers usually will give you the detailed information as well as free training on that particular PPE that they supply. So make sure that when you purchase, don't just purchase blindly, but make sure they conform to the standard, and training is actually given. Again, from my own experience, everybody has forgotten COVID already. I can tell you because memang not really Malaysia mudah lupa lah. Not particular race, Malaysia mudah lupa actually. So how you actually were trained to use N95? And what does N means? N95 kan? You know kan? So it's called a respirator. How is it better than a three-ply medical mask? What's the difference between them? Are they protective enough? Can they be used as per recommendation? What hazards require them? What hazards you need to use other things? Okay. And then of course, memakai alat lindung. Okay. That is the requirement lah. So type of PPE, you have basic or mandatory PPE, additional, task-related, risk-related, and you have also the emergency response PPE. So these are the classification by parts of body lah. That is just probably the general classification, but this is PPE class by their need of use or particular parts of the body they protect lah. So again, here you have PPE, head protection, you have safety helmet, you have bum cap. So basically, you must know the difference lah, where they are used, bum caps, and where safety helmets are used, and the different types. Then you have, of course, head protection. They are mainly for head protection from drill, impact, electric shock, and so on. So make sure, again, back to the square one, you're informed on the type of PPE. That means I always also say the correct PPE for the particular task. So you have to really pick the right one. Don't just simply believe from, your kedai jiran, some hardware store and things like that. So it can really be a problem to the worker. So then you have eye protection. You have different eye protection. You have safety glasses with or without side shield, flexible fitting, face shields, and so on. Okay, another question. You can put your answers in the chat box. If one were to use face shield, do you still need to use safety glasses? So what is your answer? If you are using face shield, do you still need to use safety glasses? All right, so put your answers there. And if you have time, go through that. If not, I'll answer it later, okay? So eye protection, you have safety spectacles, safety goggles, and face shields. So you can see they are for different purposes. They are for different purposes. What is safety spectacles, what are safety goggles, and what are face shields? So in addition to that, projectile, they also protect against chemicals, all right? And of course, objects striking the eye. So make sure, again, you understand the need and the use of those PPE. Then again, go to your foot protection. You have steel toe footwear. What are they for? Okay, and then you have your metatarsal footwear. Okay, and then you have a reinforced sole footwear, and then you have your latex rubber footwear. So most construction site is amazing. I still see till today people using the boots and the rubber latex boots and things like that. So, but again, sometimes you may think it's wrong, but then again, you see where are they using it for, all right? Okay, for those who understand what I'm saying, yeah, especially in construction, eh? Then you have PVC footwear, you have butyl footwear, you have vinyl footwear, and you have nitrile footwear. So again, why you need to know this? You need to protect yourself. If you are a safety practitioner, you need to protect your workers. Then you have foot protection from injuries from spill and splashes, and of course, impact injuries and so on. Okay. And then proper fit and use. Again, I've said again and again, any PPE, not only food, you have to be the proper type, uh, suitable for that particular task, and then make sure it fit. No, don't buy gloves that are too tight when even before wearing is there. And then when it's torn, you still use. Or you buy too big and then it's like flapping all over the place. And then you want to grip something, it's so difficult. Things like that. So when you create inconveniences to the worker in using the PPE, you can also result in accident, injuries, and near misses that can happen. All right. So select the use right kind, inspect. Same, these are standard for any PPE. Select, use right kind. Inspect. Okay, when you work particularly with chemicals, what are the type that is suitable to be used? Not anything, especially like gloves we'll see later. It doesn't mean that it looks very nice, means it can be used forever. No, there are rules for using that. Okay, and then how to store your particular PPE. In this case, the footwear, clean, cool, dry, ventilated area. So what about your other PPE? Where do you store them, and how do you store them actually? All right. So this is a cutaway diagram of the different parts of the safety shoe. And then you come to hand protection, which we just mentioned. So you have latex glove, mesh glove, leather glove, textile glove, nitrile, neoprene, and so on and so forth. Again, why there are so many? Because fit for the task. All right. So, but the problem is, I think our workers mostly, and sometimes our safety people is one type semua boleh guna. As long as you don't feel your hand wet, boleh lah pakai. So it doesn't work that way, okay? So hand protection basically is from contact injuries lah. Could be from caustic, toxic chemical, biological substance, electrical sources, extreme cold, hot, any irritation, burns, and so on, okay? And also to protect that part that is from absorption, from absorption. So this is what I was saying to you just now. So all gloves look alike, but not all gloves function the same. Okay. So what is the factor you consider? Degradation time, the degradation, the penetration time, the permeation rate, and the breakthrough time. So now life is a bit easier than when I started like 20 odd years ago. Now you have software, so you can actually select, and you can the software will tell you which glove for what type material, and sometimes in the CSDS this information is available. All right, and then of course it can tell you how long to use, even though it looks so nice. Ya sayang lah mau buang because masih nampak cantik. So if you want cantik glove or you want cantik hidup, so you have to choose between which cantik you want. Okay, then you go to breathing protection again. Not all will be the same. We have dust mask, air purifying, air supplying, self-contained breathing apparatus, and these are for different purposes. So you can see from here types of respiratory protective device. You have air purifying respirator. Is used when atmosphere is suitable for normal breathing. That is your normal your N95 lah, your what you call, or any dust or particulate filters lah. Then you have SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus, used whenever atmosphere is not suitable for normal breathing and for emergency rescue operations, like the one you always see firefighters use. Then you have the airline system, not some aeroplane coming to you, but it's called an airline system, meaning they supply to a host. So that's for long-term use when entry with a normal SCBA is physically restricted. Because when you wear an SCBA, That's why those who do confined space rescue, you are provided with portable. You don't wear that thing because depends on the size. Especially manhole. You pakai itu, you cannot go in. You can go in, you may have problem coming out. So that will be very, very dangerous lah. Then you have escape sets, the one I'm saying, for confined space rescue and all that lah. Okay, and they are never used for standard operation or for assisted rescue lah. But sometimes, yeah, depends on the situation. But again, as a general rule of thumb, they are never used in normal circumstances. So respiratory hazards, how do you choose the right one? You need to identify the type of exposure, whether they are dust, whether they are fumes, whether they are smoke, mist, vapor, and gas. So that is the technical information you need uh, to gather. So then only you can recommend the correct type or a combination type. So you can see here. So please understand the technical definition, because especially industrial hygienist, you need to know really what are you talking about, because you are going to recommend control measures that people depend upon. So unless you have a strong background on industrial hygiene or some training in that line, I think you should seek technical advice. Okay. So respiratory hazard. You have the dust, fume, smoke, mist, vapor, gas. So you can see that what are the general sizes, and then what are the form, and then what are the examples lah. So you can see here the most common misunderstood one is fume lah. So what is fume? You can see from here, fume, smoke is always confused with smoke, is confused with dust. So what is fume? Actually, is solid particles, condensed vapor, especially metals. Right. So you can see here, fume is usually of the size of 0.001 to 1 micron. Okay, they are solid, gas solid. All right. Okay. So where is it produced? In welding and soldering. So this is a favorite question in any kind of uh, hygiene exam or question. So they will definitely touch on welding and soldering because it's such a challenge to control it. Okay, the next one, SCBA. So this one you have seen, especially on news these days, everywhere is burning and exploding. So you will see the firefighters coming in with this equipment. All right, so these are called self-contained breathing apparatus. It cannot be used other than what it is specified. So almost all PPE are specific for their use. So you cannot use this for, you want to go see badan and, salam-salam sikit, you might not come up lah. Or you come up, but as a satu keping lah. All right. Then you have a supplied air respirator, you can see. All right. So it's a line, so it's supplied air lah. So where it's usually used, where it's too bulky to use the SCBA. And then this one is for a very specific purpose, that is emergency life support apparatus lah, or ELSA. So you can see they are so small. Usually, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, usually about, say, 15 minutes supply or even 10 minutes supply, 10 to 15 minutes supply, depends. So these are for rescue purpose lah. So again, you cannot simply go and rescue unless you are trained. Otherwise, you'll be the one needing rescue. Okay. So you can see here the different type, half face, full face, and so on and so forth. Okay, here I would like to tell you that we all know this is a common knowledge. And for those who are not aware, if you have any bulu, any kind of facial hair, you certainly cannot use most respirators lah. So this type, which are not air supply, you can only use in oxygen type of atmosphere lah. Anything less than 21% in air, you're not encouraged to use this, what they call normal atmospheric conditions lah. So you have to use supplied air. Okay, so you have the half face piece, full face piece. But again, I like to repeat, kalau ada banyak bulu, lebat sini sana and all that, I think you have to look for alternatives lah. So for whatever reason, you want to keep all your, beard and mustache and things like that. So some people said, hey, you got mustache here. The face piece cover doesn't block. But again, I leave it to you to decide. Nah. But the general condition is you got facial hair, is not encouraged. All right. So you have half face mask and full face piece lah. Okay. All right. So no need to gaduh-gaduh lah. So sometimes they say, oh, sikit rambut sini sana. Or when you pakai tidak kecau tidak kecau kan. So again, well, you want to be sorong dalam kotak later, and and then you can argue that later lah. Okay. So anyway, as a worker, I think we should, and as a worker, also as a advisor for control measures, safety practitioners, you should make a decision on these things lah. So again, whether the color coding is correct or not, I think you need to review again lah. Whether you go by color coding or whether you go by actually looking at the type of vapor gas filter. Okay, they can come in combination with particulate filters and so on and so forth. So again, like any PPE, pick the right one for the right job. Okay, so this is just representing, I mean, this is a very old one, how you select your respirator. But like I said, nowadays, most major manufacturers, they already have software for these things, so no problem at all. And then the next one is body protection. And when work presents a potential for contamination, so you can see this very commonly during COVID. So yeah, so sometimes you just wonder how is COVID spread? So is it necessary to continue to use like a full spaceman kind of thing? So again, you need to think whether that was uh, appropriate, correct, and needed to be used. All right. So anyway, here are some of the examples: is heat, flashes, hot, cold, impact, and so on and so forth. Again, back to the simple formula: right one for the right job. Make sure you check it and then recommend it. Okay, so like I said, PPE, anything used to protect the body, kan, or the person or the worker from the hazard. So even a lab coat, apron, chemical resistant sleeve, Tyvek suit, coveralls, arc flash, and blah. All these things actually depend on the type of work you do. Okay, so remember when you recommend this type, for example, you see that Tyvek suit, which you see in COVID also, kan, you have to be not just recommending the what they call use of the control measures as in full body protection, but again, take into consideration the other health hazards that can occur. That is heat stress, okay, and other coincidental problem face. So don't just ask them to wear a full spaceman like, and then expect them to work 8 hours a day. That is really something which has happened. I hope it never happens again. It should be properly worked out by the right technical people lah. Okay. Uh, okay, then you have aprons. What are the type of aprons? You have PVC, vinyl, uh, cryo apron, and all that stuff lah. So again, basically it's telling you the right type for the right job. Okay. Then you have chemical protective clothing. This one I told you, kan, like level D. You have different levels, like A, B, C, D, and then depends again on the type of work. So not just one size fit all, one type semua boleh, and all that. It doesn't work because in addition to wearing any PPE, you have to see not only the right type for the right job. You need to see whether it interferes with the work, whether it's suitable for that kind of work. And then you have to check the work can be done actually properly as per normal requirements. Because when you wear gloves, your grip is different. Your equipment becomes slippery, or things like that. And then, of course, like I said, if you wear like a spaceman, the heat inside, I'm just wondering how can work even beyond 2 hours in that kind of atmosphere. And in those days, in like COVID, you what do you call, switch off the aircon, or even isolation ward without air conditioning. Just imagine 2 hours in that. I mean, for people who maybe advise a lot, you should try, and you can see how exciting, to use this kind of CPS. So again, like I said, look at it in the broad way. Don't just, oh, you need to use glove, but then does the glove interfere with the work? So just like in risk assessment gun, you do not add more problems by introducing your control measures. Don't complicate it. In fact, the control measures should ease the work, make it safer, but not add to the problem or create even new hazards. So again, keep in mind, so don't just get carried away. All right. So you can see from here that level A type of protective clothing, chemical clothing is the highest level lah. Okay. And what's the difference between B, C, D, and all that? You can have a look at. Okay. And then finally, inventories. Updated list of PP inventories. Don't wait till, oh, habis sudah. Tiba-tiba tiada. Bolehkah recycle? Bolehkah guna balik? So this was the issues we faced. So I hope we don't have to face it again, because you cannot run away from it, because COVID is not the last of it. It can be other exotic organism coming along, but it is not that organisms that are coming along. It is how we deal with that, with our updated training, knowledge, and things like that. So we always say learn from history. Are we really learning from history, what has happened? Or we are just condemned to repeat the same thing again and again. All right? And then stock control, and then vendors. Remember I told you vendors means the suppliers and all that, their contact, they're reputable, their equipment is certified, approved, and then they provide the training, and that's very important. So here is an example of a PP cabinet, but whether it is appropriate, uh, adequate, and things like that, again, you can have a look at it, compare it with your own workplace, and see how you can make it better. This one in our medical side, and whether you agree with this kind of uh, storage options, or could you make it better, and things like that. So talking about PP itself is actually a huge topic lah. And the training required is never ending. And just like in any safety, there's no end to training. It's not the training that is bad, it's probably the content, the trainer, and the way you train makes it bad. There's no such thing as bad training. All right. Okay, so now after having said all that and discussed, so we go to one of my early uh, exposure in this control is formaldehyde in healthcare facility. As you know, my background and my area of practice has always been in health and hospital care, and also small medium industries. So this one was a case reported to us after we mewawarkan, and we inform our existence of the safety health unit. By the way, the unit kesihatan pekerjaan alam kita, the occupation and environmental health unit, was set up in Sabah at the departmental level for the state in 1999. So after that, we publicized our program, and that's where I had a huge headache lah, because once people are aware, especially workers, on their rights and their right to safe workplaces, that's where the information keep coming. And the challenge is keeping up with the knowledge, technology, and so on and so forth. So you can see when we were called to this histopathology, for those who are non-medic, is where you take the specimen tissue from patients, or even cadavers of people who have passed, for the purpose of assessing diagnoses and things like that lah, to see what's their problem and where the problem is. So this specialist or pathologist is working with his assistant lah, and they're processing all the tissue. So you can see here that the sash is fully open almost, and the so-called chemical fume cupboard is loaded with like a cupboard already. It's literally almost a cupboard, but then is the thing about those days lah. This is almost what 25 years or more ago. So why we were called in is because of skin rashes. They were having respiratory difficulty and skin rash. So in formaldehyde, preserving and of these human tissues, they use formalin or formaldehyde. So this is the condition. So you can see here in this picture, I hope you can see clearly, you can see the redness and rashes. But as usual, medical people don't complain much until they drop dead. Okay, so that's my staff there behind. Actually, if you can see closely, he's measuring, doing certain measurements lah. For those who are trained in LEV, they understand. But the thing is like this, the moment we entered this room, this area, we observe all these things lah. So they had their makeshift ducting up there, you can see. And besides that, I think they suffered this problem a while before they realized the existence of the occupational environmental health unit. So they had their own exhaust, so-called kitchen-like exhaust fan. But why is it off? Because you see, there's a contradiction. You want to, you you as a worker of people can know they smell, there's bad smell, and then you know there are chemicals in the air, but you may not understand what's the issues with exposure, right? So you want to be safe, so you do all these things lah. So, but why you see that fan is not working? I mean, it's because you use a room air conditioner, split unit. So if you keep pulling and sucking air out, your work site is going to be very hot. So this is a very common problem lah, between trying to balance. So there are homemade remedies, which is unfortunate lah actually. And then you can see this the main door that we came in. This one room is almost like a confined space lah. So this is the only door that is in and out of this lab lah. And then from outside, you can see that ducting you saw just now is connected to a fan, and then of course it goes onto the roof line, which is again not conforming to the actual thing lah. Okay, so this is another angle you saw cut from the ducting. So they made their own kind of, I don't know who made it. And then the worst is they put that, you see up there, the topmost part, they put a kind of a umbrella lah, metallic cover kan. Because why? They fear the rain will go in and all that stuff. But then that itself is causing problem. So if you see that, if the chemicals is being sucked out, for example, aren't they going to rain back in? And then you have a window, you have your open areas which you don't know whether it's leaking. So basically, you're raining it down on yourself. So it's called entraining. You're entraining it again. So you can see from this angle again. So my staff who is actually trained in this, so he's just checking for the phase velocity or the front windlass to see whether there is any or what is the measurement like. And not amazingly, it is zero. It's not recording any. So when you on it, you can hear the fan, the suction fan, like that, no? But when you measure, there is no reading. All right. So these are some of the problems lah. So what do you think is the problem there? All right. Then the equipment itself, this equipment, the equipment itself. All right, this equipment, which is this fume cupboard that they are using, they're not even sure it's a chemical fume cupboard. And then on further investigation, it is a donated fume cupboard from the pharmaceutical side. So from the pharmacy, you know that pharmacies from the manufacture of their product kan. So they want safe products. You see, when you use a fume cupboard, the point is you want, if you're working in front here, for example, you're working in front here, you want to protect the fume or the, sorry, not the fume, the vapors from the formaldehyde, not to be coming out kan. So it means protecting worker and environment. So basically, whatever is let off will be taken in lah, for example kan. But this is a different type. It's not a fume cupboard. It's a laminar flow cupboard. So a laminar flow cupboard, it protects the integrity of the product which the pharmacy is producing. So the air is actually blowing from down and then outward, because why? It has to keep this area sterile or clean. So it's a filtered air is coming in. So basically it will blow out. So that's another unfortunate part lah. That means you receive equipment for which you're not very sure what the purpose and function. So you're adding to the problem lah. Then in addition to that, they are worried about infectious disease. So they put up a UV lighting system lah. So again, whether the location is appropriate for that place or not, I leave it to you to comment. And then you have additional fans and this and that lah. So you can see here, additional. So whether you're sharing the problem with other areas of the building, we don't know, so unless you do the whole thing lah. So what is the outcome from here? Of course, we wrote a report. We summarized the industrial hygiene report and the safety finding and the measurement. And then, of course, this is the issue. And then the control measures were recommended. And we told them that when you make any changes, you should get back to us lah. But as usual, you know, at that point in time, like 10 tahun dulu, people don't really believe your mambo jumbo lah. At that time, it's like mambo jumbo. No? Oh, why are you creating more problem for us? We are asking you to come and like help us, but you know, it seems like you're making it more difficult lah. But actually, yeah, that's the thing lah. I'm sure you face the same problem. Okay, so for the next step, I'll be showing you the, oh, sorry, I'll be showing you a video. You just put in the chat box what are the, whether these controls are adequate and what would you do. Only two things in it, okay? When you see the video, whether these control measures that is being existing in place adequate, or is the worker doing it adequately? And if not, what would you recommend in your chat box? Okay, just have a look at the video. So this is a welder, and it's going to do welding lah. So this is the course I conducted, and I asked him to demonstrate to all the workers lah, what are the safety procedure steps that he's doing, and he set it up lah. He set it all up, okay? And he's explaining lah. Very good worker actually. Okay, so that is the video. So maybe you can have a minute, 2 minutes to put in your answers. You can put in your answers, and basically, this is a general suggestion. Okay, this is general suggestion only. There's nothing to do with that video. This is just in other work site, you can actually do these things, lah, but depends again on the type of work site. Okay. So with that, thank you very much for your attention, and I think Zara is all ready for the
Okay.
for this thing. And again, thank you very much to Posh and all the attendees for your attention. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, Doctor. So thank you, Dr. Lim. So now we open for Q&A sessions. So participant, do you have any questions to Dr. Lim?
Okay, so the other one, let me go through and wait. Okay, yeah. Okay, the one of the answers is face shield should be used with goggles. That's correct. Not wearing respirator. Okay. And what's the difference between respirator and mask? Anyone who can put the answers in?
Participant, you can type your answer in the chat box.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Jangan malu-malu. Okay, the one of the answers in the but nobody's answering the last video. Is it appropriate to put the fan there? Okay, that's a nice question. So basically, this worker is usually doing 1 to 2 hours of welding work, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes once a week, depending on the need and requirement. Okay, one of the things he put on was the fan, which was, he's doing short welding, open air. Okay. And one of his protective measures was he was actually, if you look at this, even though I didn't on the volume, he was actually pointing to the fan. Then he was doing that, right? So the fan was acting like blow away the fumes, all right? But unfortunately, if you look carefully, the fan is blowing this way. But you know that the environmental condition is blowing the other way, all right? So, but anyway, whether he's at risk of the welding process, you have to do your assessment lah. And then, but for a uh, rough estimation or just main tembak saja, it is adequate for the timing because why he only work for a short period, open air, and he uses the fan. But what he needs to be corrected is he should take into consideration the environmental condition before he like confidently put the fan blowing into that direction. All right. So I hope that clarifies. So everybody seems to understand, I think, because there's nothing in the messages.
Okay, participant, is there any other questions for Dr. Lim before we proceed to the quiz session? So Dr. Lim, is there anything else you would like to add to our participant today?
Yeah, when again, I repeat, go towards being an industrial hygienist because I think our country needs more people. Workplace hazard doesn't happen in isolation because at the moment you only have competencies, competency, NRA, CHRA, IAQ, etc. But you must look at the workplace in totality. So if you are an employer having different exposure, suddenly you say, okay, I have noise, I call NRA. The NRA comes in, he only does his NRA thing. What about the other things? The economic problems, the other things that he observed, safety issues, ergonomic, chemical exposure. Can he say that, or he or she say that it's not my problem? I'm only here to do NRA. Okay, and is it some of these hazards are they interrelated? For example, chemicals and noise. If chemicals and noise come together, can you think of a problem that may occur or be exacerbated? So again, these are the kind of things why we need industrial hygienists. All right. And then my take is you become an industrial hygienist by whichever pathway, and then for the competency program, attend them to improve upon the requirements for Malaysia. Because all the competency IQ, CHRA, NRA, and so on and so forth, ETP, they are actually Malaysian requirements. They are not international requirements, but they occur as isolation, in isolation, where hazards in the workplace occur. You have to take in consideration everything. Just like a doctor, you see a patient, you cannot say, "Oh, I point to my ear. I just focus on the ear and nothing else," because the ear is part of the whole body. So just like a hazard in the workplace, it's part of the entire ecosystem of work and what are the risks and hazards that occur, which can be additive, synergistic, etc., etc. So you need somebody to actually consolidate it. So it cannot occur in isolation. Okay, so that's my message. So with that, thank you to everybody again, once again. Okay, there's one mask mainly effective against particle, not effective against gas. Yeah, I agree with you totally. So because sometimes people wear respirators are actually very specific lah, and the terminology is more scientific. Okay, they are meant to protect. Whereas masks actually originally only medics use masks. Nobody else in most occupation use masks. So basically, the origin of using that three-ply mask, medical mask or surgical mask, is actually to protect the works, the operating site. For example, you are operating on the patient, so you don't want all your juices and everything, your bulu and juices to fall onto the works, on the wound and things like that. Whereas a respirator in the workplaces are meant to prevent from coming into your system, especially your respiratory system. So that is the essential difference between the two. So thank you for the answer. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So with that, pass to Zara. I think thank you again, everybody. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor, for the very insightful session for today. So I think we proceed with the quiz session, yeah? Aisha? Okay, participant, you're already aware of the quiz sessions rules and regulations. So, and also the gift. Okay, don't forget you can scan the QR code appear in your screens, and don't forget to enter the code to 5204995, or you can click the link at the chat box to join the quiz sessions, yeah? And you have 1 minute from now. Okay, Hera. Okay, congratulations goes to Eugene Mark. Okay, please WhatsApp us to the number given in the chat box to give us your address so we can post the gift to you. Okay, very well. So it looks like we are at the end of Posh Health webinar series January 2026, advancing occupational safety through effective chemical management. Before we end our webinar today, we would like to take this opportunity to thank to all our speakers for sharing their great knowledge and throughout these webinar sessions. And also millions thanks are also extended to all participants who are willingly to spend their time participate in today's webinar. Also, attention to all participants, certificate of attendance and lecture note will be emailed to you within a week after the webinar ended. And to all doctors, there won't be any MMA QR code to be displayed for doctor to scan to claim your CPD point. We will submit your attendance manually to MMA and the points shall reflect on your records within 1 or 2 weeks. Okay, kindly inform that you are advised to download your certificate within 30 days from the date it is emailed to you. If you do not receive the email containing the certificate, please contact us within 30 days so we can assist you. Please note, a 10-minute administrative fee will be applied for any certificate reissuance request made after 30 days period. Thank you once again for joining us today. We truly appreciate